to the children of Ireland more so. As Enoch said in his last speech, he said, "This is not for me. This is for the children of Ireland." You know, who else is there in this country with a, you know, that calibre? There's no other man of that calibre in this country, you know, that's willing to go to prison, you know, for the children of Ireland, to keep them safe, so that they are not perverted. They're not indoctrinated by absolute perverted fucking scumbags. And bear with me, excuse me language, but I'm angry. I'm living what's going on with this poor man. It's going on over nearly 2 years. I was at his High Court cases, right? A lot of you won't know this. Is this waterproof in here? Yeah. Happy days. And a lot of you won't know, in his High Court case I was there to give him support when it first started, before he was ever jailed, right? And most people won't know this because the media are the ones that are relying on for your news. The whole case was little full of lies. For example, the principal of Wilson's Hospital School, in her affidavit, she gave evidence, right, and sworn evidence, that she was so overwhelmed by Enoch's aggressive behaviour that she had to be carried out of the school, right? Which is absolute nonsense, right? Because in Enoch's affidavit, he hung her out to dry because he said in his affidavit, whatever her name was, I forgot her name, sorry, I'm just cutting the hop here, I can't remember all the stats of every case, but we're here and we know the story with Enoch. But she gave evidence that she had to be carried out of school, right? She never said the truth, that she was actually waiting a hip operation, a hip replacement, and that she was on a walker, and that she used that walker to go absolutely everywhere.
Because that is the crux of this whole issue.
That is the crux of this whole issue. That's part of the case.
That's the reason he's banned out of that school.
So the judge in the case, right, when Enoch was giving his submissions, he actually sniggered and was laughing, and I was like, the dirty, low-life animal, how dare he, you know, he knew. In my mind, the judge in his eyes, his decision was made. By my judgment of what was going on, his decision was made. He knew what he was doing, and he was going to order that Enoch be jailed. So the following day, we were in court again, the High Court, when it was put back. Right, we were there for about, I think, from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. There was a lot of submissions given backwards and forwards. But the whole case was led for the lawyers. And one thing I'd like to know, that none of you in the country know about these lawyers. That was one thing I can remember just off the top of my hand, was the fact that the principal said she had to be carried out of school, which is absolute utter nonsense. She never mentioned a thing about waiting for a hip operation and that she had to use a walker for her aid absolutely everywhere. So suddenly she has amnesia. You know, she's a school principal. She can remember everything about Enoch's behaviour. He was so aggressive, he was animated, and I was terrified. I had to be carried out of school because I was overwhelmed and thought I was going to collapse because he was so, you know, aggressive. Absolute nonsense. I'm calling it out now because the media didn't call this out. Shane Phelan for the Irish Times, you're a disgrace, you are. All the media that there, you're nothing but bought out prostitutes for the government. Shame on you. This man, you should be writing brilliant articles about him and showing respect to the man for what he's doing for the children of Ireland. And instead you have the media that appears to be bought out, you ask me, because not one of them has had the balls to speak the truth and portray the real narrative that Enoch is here and in jail, sacrificing his freedom for the children of Ireland, that they be free from indoctrination of perverted paedophiles, and that they be safe and not be brainwashed about, you know, changing gender as a normal ideology. It's absolutely disgusting what's going on in this country. It really is, and it's up to us all around the country just watching the feeds of these influencers here, and I appreciate you all coming out today. Like, it was called a short note. I did call this in the Department of Migration protest last Wednesday, and I did say Thursday, and people were all ringing me saying, is the protest going to go ahead? You know, but we did know it was either going to be jailed, and then the order was made, he was going to be, you know, committed to prison, and then eventually he was, you know, put in prison. So we stood by, we stood by our word. We said we'd be here. You know, this is what we're doing. We're going to be here every single Thursday, so everyone is know, at 1 o'clock at Mountjoy Prison. And we're going to start a couple of petitions. We're going to do a petition on petitions.ie and change.org that we want 100,000 signatures from everyone in the country that Enoch Burke should be a free man, and, you know, we want everyone to sign it. And then we're going to probably maybe if it's plausible, if we can manage it, we might go from town to town with a proper big book and get 100,000 signatures in person. It's something that me and the lads have been discussing here in person. But I'd like to call all these around the country to come to Mountjoy Prison every Thursday and show support for this man.
1 p.m.
At 1 p.m. every Thursday. That's just to start things off, and we'll see how things go from there. You know, the crowd should be, you know, they should be massive for this man. You know, this man, don't forget what he's doing. Like, he's in that prison in there. You know, which I've been in prison 9 times illegally at the time for my activism in the last 21 years.
Christmas again.
Christmas again, Christmas, folks. Like, he's been taken away from his family. You know, the happiest time of the year for a lot of people, and the opposite for others. You know,
practicing his religion.
You know,
Christmas.
You know, in the Constitution, your religion is protected in the Constitution. You have the right for your freedom of expression, your freedom of belief. You know, and this case boils down to this: that Enoch will not bow down to this transgender, disgusting, perverted, paedophile ideology, and he is endorsing his, you know, his constitutional right, you know, to freedom of expression, that he will refuse to call a child they, them, you know, and instead you have the government sticking up the fingers at the whole family, terrorising them and abusing them, and giving them an absolute dog's life. It's absolutely disgraceful to hunt this man down. Let's put things in context here, lads, and we'll call things out what's happening in the country. We've had a man, a migrant that came into the country there and stabbed a man up in the airport 8 times in the neck, and he was given a fully suspended sentence and allowed walk free, okay, yeah? Then you have a man up in Turtlestown, and I think he was an Indian man or that ethnicity somewhere along the lines, close by, Bangladesh or whatever. He kidnapped the child, put her under arm to do God knows what, the probably murder, the trafficker, the raper, to do whatever. Judge Martin Nolan let that man out, without even giving us a sentence, not even a suspended sentence. He was allowed to walk free. See you later. So in the eyes of the law, you have a two-tier system. Yeah. Free enough, but we have a two-tier system we have at the moment, right? Where migrants that come into the country are allowed. We have a two-tier system where migrants are allowed to come into the country, commit heinous, disgusting, horrible, horrific crimes, like stabbing a man in the neck 8 times, and he was allowed to walk free. Now, I forget the judge in that case. I stand corrected. Someone might mention the name, right? But I know Martin Nolan is one prolific judge that is, frequently letting off paedophiles that are caught with the most disgusting, depraved images of child porn. You know what I mean? So basically the state is sending a signal to all the paedophiles, the creeps around the country. It's okay to be a creep. We're going to let you walk out the door, but if you dare challenge the power of our state, we're going to put you in that place like a dog over there, and we're going to fucking make your life hell on earth. And that's what they're doing. And they're making my life hell on earth. For those that don't know me, I'm in activism a long time, and they scurrilized my life. I was in court today for a police property application to get a phone back that they'd illegally seized, which was recording a Ballyoga protest last year, and at the 3rd of June last year was ran by a Garda Jeep. Now I'm getting the phone back, whether or not they wipe the footage is another thing, right? But we won't go into things too much, but other than I have been persecuted by the state, that's why I'm here today. I have first-hand experience. My life has been destroyed by the state. All they do is file false charges against me because I have the balls to stand up and call protests like this over and over again the last, 3 decades. Like the water charges, people might remember me from the water charges. GMC Sierra versus McGettrick was the name of the High Court cases, and then Paul Moore took a challenge in the High Court. Paul, is that okay? But Paul Moore took a challenge in the High Court against the constitutionality of the High Court refusing to give legal aid to people that are fighting the state. They're up on their liberties at stake, for better words. You named that case GMC Sierra and Paul Moore GMC Sierra versus Paul Moore and Colin McGettrick. Like, I've been out there for years. I'm at everything. I was in Apollo House. I took over a block of apartments. I think there's 60 apartments. I got into an iPass centre up in James Joyce House. I put Irish homeless into the place instead of, migrants getting into the place. There's nothing. The sky's the limit of what I'll do in activism, and there's a lot of people around the country who's probably thinking the same way as I do. I'd like you to get in touch with myself and come down here and meet me and introduce yourself to me and get to know me. And I tell you what, we can do a lot of activism together because, as I said, like every iPass centre in the country, as far as I'm concerned, should be occupied. I put Irish homeless into them instead of these cunts coming into the country. Like our own government have admitted that 88% of these people that's coming into the country are here illegally. They shouldn't be here. But instead of having a backbone, they should deport these people, put them in detention centres and get rid of them. They don't do that, But we'll go back to Enoch Burke. We'll focus on Enoch Burke. Every Thursday, folks, come down to Mountjoy Prison at 1 o'clock, and anyone that wants to get actively involved with myself and the lads here that's here with us today, to get involved in petitions. If you want to help us come around the country, if anyone out there wants to buy me a coffee, myself and a couple of lads are going to put up a buy me a coffee link on the YouTube channels later on, and X and whatever else, Facebook, whatever the lads are live on here, and we'll try and get people support, because if you give us money, we will do a petition. We'll go around the country to many towns around the country, set up a little stall type of thing, and we'll get up a book, a decent sized book, and try and get 100,000 signatures, for people to sign a book saying that they want Enoch Burke to be free, that this man shouldn't be fucking jailed. It's an absolute disgrace. I'm livid. I'm so angry what's happening here. It's a disgrace, and I'd just like to say to the family, to the Burke family, to Elijah and Joshua, we'd like to invite them down and give speeches down here and let them take over and let them speak and let them say exactly what's going on, because they have the knowledge more so than any one of us. Because I went up to the 3rd High Court case and the 4th one, right, and we were told in the High Court the wrong court 4 or 5 times. So the one day me and Dave Noonan were going round, they said it's court 3, went to the court 3, they weren't there. Then he said it was court 9, it wasn't court 9. Then he said it was court 12 and it wasn't court 12. He gave us the wrong court numbers, and by the time we found out what court it was, the case is over, and we were on RT News that night. You'll see a snippet of me and Dave walking behind me with a t-shirt on saying Jesus is King, you know what I mean? Look, God is real, the scriptures are real. Going back to religion, I believe in God, I believe in a higher power, and what Enoch is, the message he's spreading out is true. God is real, Jesus is King, and everything else that's happening around the country, this Islamification of the world, that has to stop, because, as far as I'm concerned, you don't encourage other people, which Islam does, to behead people and hurt people and harm people. I'm not going to go into that too much, but that's my take on Islam. There is some people that appear to be, of good nature that I've met in my life when I walked in certain places. They seem to be a good nature, but I don't know where it differentiates who's the extremists and what have you. Some of them are into really, extreme stuff, chopping up body parts and Sharia law. There's different people who practice different parts of it. But look at Enoch Burke is a legend of a man, and we should be all down here every week at 1 o'clock. That's all I'd like to say for now, right? And we'll go back to some more folks. Want to stay in the way.
Good man,
Talk to a few other people, it's like the lads.